Okay, we'll make the beginning. Start with verified by a pledge. Father God, we pause and we thank you for the privilege and the honor to serve our county, and we pray for wisdom today as we make decisions. We pray for those that wear a badge and uniform. We pray you would watch over them and keep them safe. Be with our government from the federal level and watch over them, help them to seek counsel from the above, and we're thankful this time of the season of the year we can commemorate your suffering on the cross and your resurrection. God, to this prayer we pray in Christ's name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome to the April 7th Commissioners meeting. We have a quorum. You guys have the agenda in front of you. If I get a motion to approve the agenda
Minutes, I'll approve the minutes from last meeting.
Agenda?
and the minutes from last meeting. This agenda.
Second.
All right, we had a payroll of $303,763.51, claims of $621,640.62. Can I get a motion to approve the payroll and the claims?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Sheriff, you're up.
All right, as of today, we have 63 inmates in jail. 41 of those are pretrial circuit, 18 are pretrial superior, 2 are DOC, and 1 is F6. The only thing I have to bring up, we've been dealing with, I've brought up in the past, a sewer issue within the jail. We've kind of been doing things here and there to try to rectify some of those. A few weeks ago, we had a water leak coming through the wall in the kitchen. Started out as a semi-small project, looked like a drain line that went down through concrete wall. We had to cut out part of the flooring in our storage room so we could replace with PVC, and it kind of opened a can of worms. The drain line out there, I've been in communications with Commissioner Stringer. The cast iron drain sewer system for that is completely rotted out underground. So I think we're falling into more issues when it comes to the cast iron. Of course, this is cast iron that's under 12 inches of concrete, if not more. So I got Commissioner Stringer involved. We had, I don't know if I'm going to say it right, Salas O'Brien. This turned out to be something that seemed like a fairly easy fix, something that really wasn't going to involve anybody from this board. It's going to be a repair, replace, reconcrete, and we'd be on our way. But we don't know how much of that line goes to the main line. So we had Salas O'Brien come out and try to look at, I'm sure this is not the only issue when it comes to it. So there's a couple things here. One, the kitchen is an important part of what we do out there every day, obviously feeding inmates and those type of things. So the priority is going to be on the kitchen. On the back end, Salas O'Brien is putting together a proposal or plans or prints that we could eventually look at replacing, tying in new sewer lines that would then be tied into the jail. I don't know what that project's going to look like, but that's something that we probably should at least look at, consider. It's not anything that anybody wants to deal with, especially after we just did renovation on the jail, which did not include anything to these type of things. These are pipes that are underground. So
You consider blowing a liner in it?
It's past that, so when Scott got me involved, we brought in, put a camera in. So think about a 4-inch line, half-inch wall, you can poke your finger through it. So when they got in there and looked at it, they laid all the cast iron on the ground and then poured concrete over it. It was never coated, it was never wrapped, and it was never leveled. So you have, when you look at cast iron, especially cast iron, you have to release the gases. The gases are the most corrosive. So when it's laying and it's skewed on angles, they were capturing gases. So over the past 30, 40 years, it's just deteriorated.
Yeah, when you talk about a kitchen as well, I mean, you got grease and those type of things, which is gonna accelerate the deterioration of those lines. I mean, we have grease separators and those type of things at the jail, but
I think you gotta look at it as two projects. So one is, and we'll bid them all, but one is, how do we get the kitchen back up? We can't operate the jail without a kitchen.
Right.
And then the other one is, we have deteriorating lines that we have some time to work on. The idea would be take a exterior perimeter pipe around the outside and bring laterals into that. The great thing with the design of the jail is most of it's above ground. So you can bring the laterals out and tie them into a main trunk line out away from the existing, so you don't have to tear the whole floor out.
yeah.
So there's some plans going on there, but I think, to your point, there's a cost that's gonna be a jail repair to get the kitchen up and running.
Yep.
And then there's a project that would be step 2 of how do we get ahead of each cell block going down because it's got rough.
Yeah, it would be phased out, obviously. Having low jail population numbers help. Just a note, the kitchen isn't down currently. It's something that needs repaired. We were gonna dig out more flooring, but the farther we go, the pipes just keeps, you can stick your finger through the bottom of it. So we've kind of put a pause on what we've done until we can figure out what the plan is moving forward. But the kitchen needs repaired. If it gets extensive enough to where they have to tear out enough flooring, then I will be without a kitchen for a period of time. We were without a kitchen during the renovation. We had a local church, Life Church, that allowed us to use their kitchen at that time. That's a possibility for us, where we cooked off-site and did meals and then delivered them to the jail. It's something we've had to do in the past, not anything that we're looking forward to doing again, but that is a possibility. But again, one project may be this kitchen repair, which is, we need to get done, and then we'll present as we learn more information about the project. From my understanding is we have the prints and the scope of what they would look at for a longer-term project that would be phased out, but we'd have to put numbers to it. I do know that we do have a jail repair fund as a portion of our bonding for the renovation. A percentage of that goes into a jail improvement fund, and I believe the last time I checked with Lisa, there's close to $1 million in there, just under that. So that is money that can go towards some of this cost. I'm not anywhere near being a guesser of how much this type of thing would cost. I always seem to guess too low because apparently I'm not in an industrial contractor. And
I think the mode we go through now is let's get a print and a scope and then plan, figure out how to budget it from there instead of jump at it, tear the floor out, and wish we would have had it. So I think that's where we're at, is we're the scope.
Yep.
We're at the print stage now, we're working on the scope. Then we can go out with a bid package to several to do the kitchen. And then we can get a print and a scope for the facility and maybe break that up into sections and be able to manage it.
Yep.
Within our own budget.
So we'll continue to work on it outside of this, and we'll keep you apprised as we learn going along. So,
Okay.
all right.
Thanks for the good news there.
Huh?
Thanks for the good news.
Yeah, start the meeting out right. Okay, thank you.
All right, Dan, you guys are up.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So we're here to talk about the insurance renewal. We had the work comp that already renewed on 2/1. And I had sent an email last week, I believe Thursday, where I had broken down basically the premiums, what we had come back with. We had just gotten the renewals actually on Tuesday, final, in from Bliss McKnight. We've been with Bliss McKnight, the county has been with them for over 20 years through our agency. So we appreciate and thank you for all of the long, lengthy time there with, and I've got two representatives from Bliss McKnight here as well, Connor and Nick, who wanted to come along and talk a little bit about the market and some of the risk management, if there's time for that. I also wanted to mention, we had got some alternate quote deductibles. We had taken this risk out to market last year. We went to Astra, we went to Travelers, we went to Liberty Mutual and EMC Public Risk, and none of them would even entertain a quote. And I had reported that back last year when we did this. So I want to make sure you know that we are making an effort to check the markets, and we do feel like we know the better carriers that a risk of this nature would be, that should be with. So if you want to flip on the proposal I just gave you, it's going to say a premium summary, and it compares the expiring to the renewing. And like I said, I want to, if we flip to the next page, it's going to be more detailed, where it's going to be a breakdown per percent increase. Keep in mind, Bliss McKnight is providing the multi-class liability, the wrongful employment practices liability, employment benefit, E&O, auto coverage, which is a large part of that, and the total, you'll see where I compare the 24-25 numbers with the 25-26, and we're at about 11.4% on the Bliss portion. And then I also want to mention, Blake had reached out about possibly going from a $1,000 collision deductible on auto to a $2,500 deductible, and that would save you roughly about $6,593 a year by going to the $2,500 collision deductible. And I would probably recommend that if it were me, go with a higher deductible on collision for all the vehicles. That would be just for collision. Everything else would stay as it is. And then as you go down further, you'll see the selective portion, which is going to be the property, the crime, and the inland marine. And you can see the premium breakdown there, and from 24-25 to 25-26, and you're looking at about a 12.5% rate there. Again, we also currently we have a $25,000 deductible on property for the buildings and contents, and we also quoted an additional $50,000 property deductible option, which would save you $11,538 a year if you were to go with that option. So we just wanted to be able to provide a couple of additional opportunities to lower the premium from what they came in at. I thought that would be something good to at least offer as you're looking at the costs of the insurance as it does continue to go up.
How many auto claims did we have last year?
I would have to go up through every, I didn't see a whole lot as far as it would affect the collision. We had several deer situations. We had a couple property damage where there is no deductible. So to answer your question, Jeff, I don't think there's a lot that would have involved. Maybe, but I have the whole Bliss. If you look underneath here, this is the whole breakdown of all the Bliss claims, and it breaks down auto and everything. And, while we're on that topic, with Bliss McKnight, just the Bliss McKnight portion, in the 5-year claim history, we've got $486,380 in claims paid out the last 3 years, and there's still a few things that are still open. But Connor can maybe reflect on that here a little bit too, and what we're seeing with the market.
I was just trying to, like on the deductible for the cars. If we went from, for the commissioners, if we went from 1,000 to 2,500, if you had 2.5 claims, you lose money that way because you'd be paying 25. If you have less than 2.5 claims a year, then it makes sense to go to.
Yeah, you had, in 2020, you had a collision claim that was around 19 grand. I highlighted all the claims here. I didn't see a lot that was specifically collision driven. I mean, most of them were property damage. You had an uninsured motorist situation, comprehensive, which is gonna be, comp, it's not gonna be collision. So I did not see a lot of, and that's why I think it's a great opportunity to do that too.
We have a week or so, we can go through the claims and compare it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, but like I've said, I've highlighted all the major ones, and Jeff, I don't see any auto claims that would be collision that would really affect. I mean, like I said, if you've only had a couple in the last 5 years,
That makes sense.
I think that would be a great option for you guys, and I would recommend that. And there's a lot of people personally, when they're not insuring the size fleet you guys have, there's a lot of people even on the personal route that's carrying a lot higher deductibles as well. So more of a self-insured retention. Well, here we got a situation here, it looks like collision 1010 of 24. $1,420 was paid. And that was, it looks like a police vehicle was in pursuit. So, I mean, in that situation, you probably just wouldn't have a claim, you know what I mean? If there's only, and I wouldn't probably turn in a $1,400 loss. I probably wouldn't recommend that. So, I mean, I would encourage you to do that, and from the claims, I really don't see where you've had a history of it being something that should keep you from doing that. That's my opinion.
Try it 1 year, and if we don't have success, we'll go back to it.
Yeah, I mean, you can always, you may find out that you go to 5,000 in the next year if you guys don't have any collision claims in another year. I mean, we're getting to the point with the insurance costs, and they're increasing each and every year. I mean, there is some self-insured retention that a lot of people are doing in the way of saving funds. So, but Jeff's exactly right. You don't want to, if you had 7 claims where that would have cost you 25, it doesn't justify you doing that. But in this situation, in your claims history on the auto, I think it certainly would. So then, when you get back down to that page, and I don't want to go over every single coverage issue here, and I don't think anyone in the audience wants to hear all of that either. We got the cyber quote, we got the property, and there at the bottom is where they total it up, and the rate is up 11.3% overall, which, from what we know from a market standpoint, I feel like that's very good. I mean, most of the standard commercial accounts I'm seeing 15 to 20. A lot of farm accounts, we're seeing 20 to 25%. So with now, and I think Connor wants to speak of this as well. I mentioned how many claims you've had in the last 5 years, but the claims the last few years are much improved from what they were in the past. So I think that should ultimately help you as well. And Connor, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah. The reduction in claims over the last 3 years has been very impressive. I just wanted to commend you on your commitment to that. Again, to Dan's point, 11% from a county perspective is really good. And the shift or the reduction in claims has led to that, I would say, reduced increase. This year alone, I've watched 10+ counties not be able to obtain insurance for their jails or have to go to a non-admitted carrier to do that. And it's it carries a large financial burden when you have to do that. So again, when you reduce claims, especially in this marketplace now, you're really doing yourself a huge favor, and we really appreciate that. And again, we've had a 20-year relationship with you. And we really appreciate all that you've done and working with you. I really just wanted to say keep it up. And obviously, Nick Ermiger's with us, who's a risk manager. We are always available to you to assist in any way we can with risk management. We really enjoy being proactive, which you've had that mentality. It allows us to protect you to the best of our ability. And if we can kind of keep this up, we hope to offer stable premiums to come, which is just, again, counties are just not experiencing that when they have high loss ratios across Indiana right now. So kudos to you, and thank you. We really appreciate it.
What was our claims increase last year? Do you know what it went up last year? Not our claim, our policy renewal rate?
I want to say 9% off the top of my head.
You think it was 9?
Yeah.
You're talking about just Bliss?
Yes. Yeah. And again, those are all market driven. So at Bliss McKnight, we only do business in Wisconsin, Illinois, and Indiana. And so just from really the law enforcement and the auto, those are just our internal rates increasing. Your modifier based on your loss ratio is decreasing, which again, we're very appreciative of.
I just asked that if it was 9 last year, I wonder what our claims rate was, and you say our claims are better this year, but it's higher, so just trying to figure out how much is market, how much is us having better claims rate.
Yeah, it's primarily market driven.
Market rate.
And
Do you want to speak of the couple, like the law enforcement, some of the things you've been,
Yeah. So other carriers in Indiana are filing for 50% premium increases across the law enforcement liability line. And that is a result of severe law enforcement claims out of jails in the millions of dollars. And that's really, and so we've also had a few carriers just say, we're not doing counties anymore. So at Bliss, we don't ever want to do that. We've been continuously insuring counties in Indiana for over 50 years, and we're passionate about it, continue to do that. We don't want to come in and out of the market, which other carriers do, and it is somewhat cyclical. When we have high inflation combined with, in this case, over the last couple of years, increased law enforcement liability claims, carriers will come in and out of the market based on profitability. Whereas we like to say we're more of a mission-based company, where we want to be there for you, continue to support you, and hopefully be a success with you like you guys have been the last couple of years. But again, we still have to go and price this to prepare for potential claims, and they've just increased since COVID at a rapid pace. And so that's some of the increases you're seeing.
Just one question, Dan.
yes.
50,000 deductible
Mm-hmm.
instead of the 25. Is that aggregate or individual?
Well, you're on a blanket policy, so so if it's
One building, it's,
so if you have one occurrence or a storm, it's going to be 50,000 per. It would be for the loss for the buildings. Does that make sense? So like you're not going to have 50, 50, 50, 50. It's going to be, if it's one occurrence, it's going to be a $50,000 loss.
gotcha.
Across all buildings, could affect 5 buildings, and it's.
Right.
Gotcha.
Now, if it's a separate incident, then
Sure, yeah,
yes,
that's understandable.
It's going to be, I mean, we're going to have, it's going
That
to
was
initiate
my
another
question. Thank you.
$50,000 deductible. Correct. And one thing also, I know Lisa had pointed out, on the full-time, part-time, I mean, we have that noted, and that isn't effective here yet in the rate, because they're still working on that. I wish they could turn around quickly, but that's not how some of these, we changed the number of full-time and part-time, so it is what changed. And then we get to, if you flip the page, you've got the Bliss McKnight portion of the quote, and it's gonna break down the multi-class liability coverage part, and all the basic liabilities and the E&O, employer benefit, errors and omissions. And then as you flip through here, it's gonna talk about some of the basic standard coverages that are automatically included. Again, I mean, we could talk about this all day. I don't think you want to. The vehicle list is ever changing, so the vehicle list is gonna be as updated as recently as Lisa had talked to us about. And there are gonna be vehicles, I'm sure, every other day that's added or taken off. The selective, again, portion is the property. I think if you go to, let's see here, I'll show you the highlights of that.
Yeah, can we run through just so we're all aware what the building
Yes.
limits
Yep.
are? That was an issue last year. We just want to make
Sure.
sure we got covered.
So if you flip to page 14 of the selective portion, and you see where it says location level, and it starts with location 1-1.
So that's at 15.8, that's the courthouse?
Yep. And then if you go to the next page, it's going to have, that's the jail. We got 25 million on the jail.
Yep.
We got 930-some thousand for contents. And then we got location 2. That's actually just the radio and TV antenna. Location 3 is a $3 million building, 387.69 on contents.
What is that one, Washington Street?
It's our
Yep,
building we're in
220.
now.
There, annex.
And we got location 4. We got 138, and this is just business personal property, it's not a building. But yeah, this is where it lists all the locations that add up to the blanket value and listings of the buildings.
Okay.
So we've now got 25 million on the jail. And then if you, something else is of importance is location 12. This is the new highway buildings that were added. We've got over 8.7 million on the building. We got personal property, and then we got the other building.
Cold storage.
We actually have another building too.
So,
We got the salt and the cold
Yeah,
storage. and then-
yep. So, I mean, we should have everything on here. I mean, that's where you can review, verify. If you think anything's out of line or whatever, please let me know. Because we certainly want to make sure that we're ensuring things to adequate value. And then in the Marine, I think Sean would probably be more at the Highway Department. We got, if you look at page 13, that's of the selected portion. That's going to be in the Marine, all the equipment and everything that is that we have as current and up to date. And like I said, that's page 13 of the selected portion. And let's see, there's an actual, let's see here.
Page 19, maybe?
Yes, 19, thank you, Ted, is where it lists the leased, rented, unscheduled equipment and listed per item, and because you guys are leasing it, I think a $590,000 piece of equipment, if I believe I'm correct. So that's where that's picked up. And then we got all kinds of radio unscheduled equipment listed there. So that's where a lot of that is. And then the last part of this is the actual cyber portion, which is your data and cyber coverage. That's going to be provided, and that's with AmWIM's brokerage. And like I said, that stayed pretty consistent. 5, 6 years ago, these were going up consistently and very high, but now they've kind of they've leveled out as far as premium wise on some of the cyber and everything. As long as you've got everything in place, the carriers are not seeing as much rate on that as we have in the past. But the rate started out much smaller than that originally. So I just want to say, I guess, in closing, myself, my father-in-law, we've been involved with the county insurance for over 20 years. We are constantly wanting to make sure, be involved and help on the community in any way we can. We appreciate the loyalty that you provided to me and Bliss and the other carriers that are involved, and I just hope that we get an opportunity to renew the insurance on May 1.
That's when it's due, so we have some time to review this and go through the values. And
Yeah, the
I'd
renewal.
suggest we vote on it next week.
Yeah, I mean, and you don't have to make decisions. I mean, my thought was that you guys were gonna look at this stuff anyway, and then probably at the next meeting, I mean, that's generally how it works, but I don't, you can tell me if it's changed. And whatever works for you guys, what's the easiest for you, is we're willing to cooperate in any way we can, and if there's any questions that come up meanwhile, I mean, don't hesitate to reach out. So, but other than that, I just want to thank you guys for what you do, and Lisa, and you've been very helpful, and Ted, I appreciate you getting claims to us and making sure that things get sent through as the carrier needs it. So just like to thank everyone for the role you do for the county, and I'm sure they're ready for me to be done, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When should the commissioners start examining or asking you guys to examine a self-insured retention to save for savings? Are we close to that spot based upon values or claims?
No, I don't think so. Based upon your premium levels and your activity, I don't think so. In my experience, that also comes with a considerable workforce load. And so that's really where I think you need to dig into is how much of your workforce is going to take on some of that claims handling. You can obviously go out to a third-party administrator, but, we're a first dollar company, and we like to say insurance is professional services, and we really strive ourselves on offering you the very best set of professional services for what you need in liability and auto. And so I don't think at your claims levels, you're ready to explore elsewhere. We're going to keep doing our end of the bargain, doing it as well as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sean? Hi, Sean.
Thank you.
Good evening. Sorry I'm a little late there. I was kind of wrapping some things up. We'll start with what we've been doing the last couple of weeks, what we're focusing on this time of season. We've been going out looking at ditches with all the water we got, cleaning out what we can at the moment, making notes on where we can go back when it's dry to correct. We're just about done prepping all the stone roads. We still have a little bit of stone to haul. We have some grading to do after our heavy torrential downpours. We made another run on them today. Still identifying our dead trees in the right-of-way and taking them out so we don't have to do it in off-business hours. We have our dust control sign-up ending on April 28th, just giving an advance notice, but it is open. We take applications at the Highway Department and also give you flags. You can also print it out online, mail it in with your check. And we'll go into our projects. The local tracks update is Grade X started by correcting some erosion issues that were identified by IDEM several weeks ago. That has been complete. We've been waiting for the weather to clear up so EMB could come in and pave. They began paving the OG asphalt layer today and will continue until it's done. Their NDOT has spec'd a new asphalt that started being used in 2025. With their new spec, it cost us an extra $14,403.19. It's standard across the board. If we would have paved it last year, we could have used their old spec, and it would have been the same amount. So I went forward with the change order of paying the extra as everybody's had to. Also met with DLZ before the paving commenced. I had concerns with water standing in the ditches. They had showed on the plans with the check dams. All of them weren't installed in time for the winter months. So Great X went back, installed them properly. As you've seen, we had some heavy rains out there And we also discussed with adding 2 more pipes at the end check dams that weren't there. DLZ agreed. So that will be getting done as well. A lot of ditch work is being waited to finish up until the asphalt's down, because they can't get in there and take care of issues where it's at in fear of damaging or tearing up the subgrade. When the asphalt binder is completed, it'll be completed down Hoosier Highway to 300, and then 300 to Hoosier Highway, the new Hoosier, and then up to Adams Street. That will be complete, and traffic flow will start there before they begin work on the cul-de-sacs of the older Hoosier Highway. When all construction is done, they will come in and put surface coat on everything. We're running on a tight schedule right now with an with an expected completion date of 5/16. I'm not gonna hold, I'm just gonna tell you right now, because that's what we're on. Any questions about any of this so far?
So those 2, they are gonna install 2 pipes on those dams to help with the flow. Over the weekend, I had concerns with the water level, and we met this morning.
It won't help for that. It helps for the lower to slow it down. So with what we met with this morning, if you've seen some pictures that happened over the weekend, they were over the dam, so it won't do anything. As it starts coming down, it just helps slow the process. Without those pipes in there, then it would have to be above that dam to spill over, so then that would hold water at that dam. So 2 pipes, 1 on each side, will be installed so it can release all the water from the ditch.
DLZ, Jared, and Nate, and Sean all looked at it, and even BF&S, that those aren't, you shouldn't see a ton of flow through those ditches. They're a 2-stage holding, kind of like a holding pond, or reduce and let the system hold it so it doesn't back up. So it actually worked as designed, and we reviewed that this morning, that it looks like a place to go hunt ducks, but it's actually just that's the way it's designed.
And it was going away pretty quick. There's surface water that runs over the tile too. And I came out, and we had a little blockage at the highway department that we were aware of. And when it started really backing up, we were gonna put a tile in there, and Jared recommended we just do a low swale with the road going through it, and that's what we're gonna end up doing. I ended up digging the road out to allow the water to escape. I did that on Saturday, come in this morning, first thing I checked, all of our water's gone. And I did not have time to make it over to the Hoosier to see where the water level was on the ditches, but I'm sure it was leaving as well. I did go look at the exit on, into the open ditch, and we had a couple inches of air in a pipe, so it's flowing fast and it's removing quickly. And I know in the future, Jared already has plans to put a 36 in there, which will help it even more.
And you have to imagine on that new road, there'll be another at least 10 inches of asphalt that goes above that. So we're well underneath the top of that road.
It'll spill into the fields before it
Gotcha.
reaches the road top.
Makes good sense.
Bridge 51 down on 3 West. The approaches are poured and the brake test comes back tomorrow. The bridge deck has been poured, the brake test passed. We've had a lot of wind going on with all these projects, so I've been on top of making sure they have all the detour signs up, and it seems every time we have a little wind, we got them down, but they're quick to repair and get them back up. I've even had them come in on the weekends on a Sunday and take care of it. We're still on schedule for expected road opening on May 1st for that project. In all these projects, I included a couple pictures this time. If you look at the back pages, you can identify what stage the project's in at the moment, except for the Hoosier. I did a drone footage, and I forgot to bring the drone in today. R.L. McCoy had to pause from high waters 2 different times. They've been working on the false work, which is low on the bridge, and they have been cleaning up from the rising water, which they have done twice now. Detour signs were down there as well, and they have been repaired, and they are still on schedule for an expected completion date of November 7th this year. Then highway garage issues are about the same, but Jacksons and Connor have been working with me to take care of some of them issues. The garage doors, we've been trying a couple different methods to try to prevent what's happening. We have a final method, but it would be our last option, and we're still practicing with that, so I have no comment on which direction should be gone yet, or a recommendation. Still waiting on the wash bay man door. They have that on schedule. The HVAC, we have had at least one. I was present with one vendor come in to give a quote, and I had received a recommendation for that today, and I will bring more in next meeting. And the louvers are still opening for the positive pressure. On April 4th, we received the letter of compliance from IDEM, as we are no longer under scrutiny from IDEM for any reason, and we are good to go. I also had quotes out to get quotes for mowers. We only had 2 vendors respond with that. I was not able to get the information to you quick enough, so if you would like to wait till next meeting to do that, we can do that. And then right-of-ways, Ted?
How about we deal with credit card resolution?
Oh, credit card resolution, I like that one.
Sure. In 2012, the Board of Commissioners passed a resolution which authorized the highway superintendent at that time to obtain and use a credit card up to an amount of $2,500. Sean came to us a meeting or so ago indicating that that limit really is no longer practical, even using the proper purchasing procedures. As a result, we're presenting the Commissioners Resolution number 2025, I believe it will be -02, to simply raise the credit card limit or the usage limit for the highway superintendent to $5,000.
I'll make that motion to allow the resolution.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
3-0.
Do you want to do your annual report?
I did not put that on there. I wasn't ready for it, so I don't have the annual report right now.
Yeah, I do.
I haven't reviewed it. No.
So we'll move that to next meeting?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Mr. Bonar has been anxious to get to. We do have a couple rights of way. Probably find them with my stats and paper here, apologies. We have 3 rights of way through the area plan that we also pass under the highway superintendent's report. They are 3 rights of way, but they're all associated with one property. It's a division of that property. It's an Anderson Trust property located around 300 North, and it's simply dividing it into 3 different parcels for some individuals. So I would request your approval for 3 rights of way under the area plan commission rulings around 300 North.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
3-0. Good?
Yep.
All right, sir, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Whitaker.
Good evening. We'll start with utility permits. I had 3 utility permits all from Citizens Telephone, just 3 separate locations. So the first one being County Road 800 South between County Road 1100 West and 1200 West. I don't see any problems with this. It's my understanding that they've already performed similar work in the area. They just did not have room in the existing duct, so they're basically going to be boring a secondary. In fact, it's my understanding that all 3 of these permits were submitted for the same reason. They were all areas that they already had facilities that just don't have ample space. So the second location is County Road 800 South between Meridian and County Road 100 West. And the third being two different county roads around the corner from each other, County Road 200 West between 6 and 7 South, and County Road 700 South between 1 and 2 West. And that last one was the one that we brought up at the drainage board that had the bore underneath the legal drain. So Jared's got his permit now. So I'm making the recommendation to accept all these permits.
County engineer passed this along to us last week. I see nothing wrong with follow, and if he's in favor of it, there's no problem on mine.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, as far as some project updates, Bridge 54, we were able to, with Ted and Andrew's help, we were able to finalize everything that we needed to record the last 3 parcels for that project. And right-of-way certification letter was put together and sent to NDOT last week, which timing worked out great for that because we were kind of drawing near to that time as far as NDOT's project management schedule. As far as the Meridian Road project that's out for bid, I saw that the second advertisement was published in the paper on April 3rd. Still anticipating having a bid opening on April 14th at the County Highway Garage, and hopefully having a recommendation for the 4/21 meeting for you guys to sign.
That's the one that hinges on Hoosier Highway being reopened for the detour.
Yeah, I tried to structure it in a way that hopefully we were done with the Hoosier Highway work before any anticipated work on Meridian. The durable pavement marking project, I got word from Burgess and Nyepel that they were able to start field work last week, just going out and collecting data on existing pavement markings, kind of start and stop locations for no passing zones, things of that nature, to get a more detailed estimate put together. And the County Road 500 West realignment, dealing with Rock Creek. I think I gave you guys an update a couple weeks ago and said that the site plan was nearing completion. Miller Surveying hit me up again last week, and I just wanted to look through it real quick to make sure that all of my comments had been incorporated and addressed. And I found a couple that hadn't, so I just let them know again. And I think as of this morning, I think a final version was sent, and I had just like 2 more comments on that, just things that weren't quite clear. So we're drawing very near on that. I don't see any reason that that won't be wrapped up pretty soon and have like an actual construction site plan for that.
Do you want to be in by when? This fall? Have it
Yeah.
complete by this fall?
I talked to Chase, and he was hoping to start on that in July. That's all I've got for this week.
All right, thanks, sir.
We have a similar credit card resolution. My understanding is that back in 2016, the commissioners approved a credit card resolution for the county engineer. That credit card is used along with the highway superintendent. We have a similar resolution simply to increase the credit card limit to $5,000 for the county engineer. My understanding is that the county engineer will probably never utilize that entire limit, but I think we should have the same limit both for the county highway superintendent and the county engineer. So we proposed resolution number 2025-03.
Motion to approve the resolution for the engineer.
Second the motion for the resolution.
All in favor?
Aye.
3-0. Thanks, Nate. Judge Kirkhoff.
Good evening. I was here last month, and brought to your attention ordinance proposal to establish a public defender board for the purpose of exploring whether or not the county should consider being part of the State Public Defender Commission in order to, which is the necessary first step to seek reimbursement and if we want to go that route for some state funds that are available for public defender use. I also mentioned and brought to your attention an agreement between the proposed agreement for the county to enter into for Title IV-E cost recovery for public defender expenses in CHINs and termination of parental rights cases, child in need of services and parental rights cases. I believe I forwarded those all on to Ted for his review as well. And so I brought that to your attention, and I'm just asking you consider that. Again, it doesn't bind us to do anything different than we're already doing. It just creates a board to kind of start that process to explore whether or not we should consider that. Well, we might ultimately decide to do nothing. We might decide to change how we're doing public defender work.
Ed, you and I had talked. Can you explain how that board's constructed?
Sure. And I just want to clarify and remind everyone that there is a public defender ordinance currently on the books for Wells County. That public defender ordinance enacted a prior statute. So the current makeup of a board using the current ordinance would be one appointment by the Board of Commissioners, one appointment by the court. The current makeup would be two appointments by the commissioners and one by the court. The statute, since Wells County enacted that ordinance, has been modified. Now the appointments are one by the commissioners, one by the court, and then one by the Indianapolis or Central Public Defender Office. And so those three would be appointed to the board. And then those three individuals would make a recommendation on how to move forward, is my understanding. And the judge may have a much better understanding about how that board would work. But the basic constitution, we would have to amend the existing ordinance to simply adopt the current statute. And that would be on the appointments.
When I looked at it, we talked about this last time too, the previous ordinance was passed in the late 90s, early 2000s, something like that. So it's about 25 years old. The ordinance itself does not name anyone, the records I could find at the auditor's office. But I think Ted had done some more research and found that there were people named, they just were never on the ordinance.
Normally, the ordinance, we would not appoint, there would be subsequent appointments, but you are correct, Judge, that there hasn't been an appointment to that board in some time, at least since I've been county attorney. There's been no appointments by anyone, well, particularly by the commissioners that I'd be aware of. So while the board can be formed, it hasn't been formed in some time.
I think we talked, like two of the three individuals may be deceased.
Yeah.
That's how long it's been.
Because
So they're not active.
Yes. Yeah, we've been-
Not active.
There would
That's
have
a
been
good way to
minutes
put
to
it.
reflect that from prior commissioners.
My concern of changing from the ordinance we have now, and it's just purely from the commissioner's stance, is we have two appointees. The new way of looking at the board would give us one, the judge one, and then one from Indy. So
Outside.
So the outside influence could be that, and I'm not saying it would work this way, but the two could vote against the commissioners and we lose control of the finance piece of that. They could kind of mandate outgoes. Not saying that's how it could happen, but that's the risk of us going from having two positions on the board to having one position on the board. But I think the board then, whether it's with the current structure or the new structure, needs to look at your request of how do we, do we have a board that looks at items, then how do we structure what we're looking at?
And I don't know what the as Mr. Stewart said, the statute has changed. And so I don't know what that does if you wanted to maintain, if you wanted to operate under the old ordinance, I don't know what that does since the current statute has this makeup, so I don't know.
Ted, the statute dictated how the original agreement was probably written, or the original ordinance was probably written. So now the statute has changed, so we would be under the obligation to create an ordinance that followed that statute that would actually set up how that board is constructed, correct?
Yes, we would want to amend, and if the desire of the commissioners is to
Right.
create this board, my recommendation would be that we amend and restate by passing a new ordinance that would be in compliance with the existing version of the statute.
Right, so we'd be dictated by that even if, like, we'd have to change the ordinance if we decide to go this route. Yeah, correct.
And it's a mixed bag, right? We've talked to counties that didn't really say one way or the
Right.
other, and we've talked to counties that said it's kind of a runaway cost because there is a third party from the state that tries to push that agenda, and the costs are a little bit out of control, so
Well,
my opinion is.
You have this, and you gotta add this next year, and then you have that, and then you need to add this the following year, and just kinda mushrooms or balloons.
So my question would be then, you form the board, the commissioners are still in the driver's seat as far as if we were gonna go past the construction of a board, correct?
That is
Or no?
my understanding.
Okay.
Seems still a little foggy for me, Ted.
I would like to see the statute as it, that controls that. I think what you're saying, my fear would be the same. You create the board, then, instead of just being a study, all of a sudden, it's like, well, we've got the board has decided that now we create this, in essence, another department.
That's what I think the concern is.
Right, okay. I want to make sure I understood that.
So, advice on, do we need to dig more into it? I just want a clear view of, obviously, the judge has a concern that we need to address, but I don't want to pigeonhole us into a situation where really the state, somebody from the state is telling us, you need to add this, you need to add that, without understanding the restrictions on budgeting.
With the ordinance in place, you could appoint individuals to the committee to discuss the issues while there's an examination as to whether or not the ordinance should be updated and amended for the additional appointments. That could at least have people thinking about the issue and what issues may face the county in general about the cost, expense, operations of a public defender board, which Wells County hasn't utilized, well, probably since you've been on the bench, Judge, never. So, it would be a new animal. So you could appoint someone to the existing board so they could study these issues and determine what costs would ultimately be involved if you went to a new public defender board.
I'm just looking at it right now, if we would take it under consideration, budget time is coming up by the end of June, correct? For hearings, and so, I mean, maybe it'd be best to take it under advisement and have all the information next spring, so we can take it to budget in June of next year. And give us 12, 14 months to do a study or something, or a group of people, rather than just.
Be nice to know
jump.
who would be recommended for the committee.
Right.
I mean, obviously, you got some people that you would want on the committee to evaluate it.
I don't know, I don't have a name yet, I don't know what, in looking at it, there are certain restrictions who can serve. So that's one of the concerns. In trying to find someone who's kind of, I really would like to have someone who's a Wells County resident, but has also some insight into what the needs of the courts are and things like that. As you know, we don't have any practicing criminal lawyers who are Wells County, who live in Wells County currently, who are practice here, or who have offices here, I should say, residents. But so that puts me a little bit. I don't know who I don't know who I would point at this point.
Bit of disadvantage. It's just my thought, just to take it into consideration. But
The existing statute, and I'm looking at the ordinance that the judge brought from the Indiana Commission on Court-Appointed Attorneys. The judicial appointment would be an attorney or someone, well, I apologize, I'm stumbling here. Yeah, I don't see the restrictions or the identification of who would be appointed, but I think the judge is correct that you'd want to have people who are certainly aware of the processes before you go on. Normally on appointments, I was looking at section 3 of the proposed ordinance. Normally, an appointee by a county is required to be someone residing in the county as well. I don't know the answer as
So I say suggestion is we take it under advisement, give legal some time to review it, give us some advisement on how to do it. Judge, I'd ask you to do the same thing, dig into it a little more, and then just continue the conversation, like Commissioner Gerber said, and maybe put it into the next budget cycle.
I'm wide open. 'Cause some of the things I heard that it could do is fine, but then I've also heard where it gets to the chance where it could be a ballooning department that, you know, again, council then is gonna ask questions and its budgets, so.
Commissioner Bannon, thoughts?
Yeah, if I could get my head wrapped around the ideas that you create the board, does it actually do the study and look at the financials and everything else, and that's how you get those answers? Or does it not? But I assume that that's the reason we want legal to take another look at it and answer that for us by next meeting. I mean, that's my only feeling on it.
I'm okay
Right.
with that.
So let's put it on next meeting again. We'll bring it up, see if we can get farther down the road on understanding what we need to do or not do.
Sure. Is there anything specifically, any specific questions you want from me to answer? Do you want to know? I mean, I have some outdated information from 2022, when I started some of this process of investigation from a neighboring county's public defender office. They had gone through what kind of the existing counties that are in it, or at that time, what they had, what their structures looked like. Some of them had complete offices, you know, with staff and county employees. Some had like contracts, you know, they were just, but they had varying and everything in between, so.
It'd be helpful for me to see a county that's similar to our size with a docket that's similar to ours and what they did and what their approach was, absolutely. But I'd also like to know, what are we required by the statute change? What do we have to do?
Sure.
What don't we have to do? And then why do we have a board that's deceased? Obviously, we didn't find much
My
utility
understanding,
in it before.
yeah, my understanding is that they came to the conclusion that even with reimbursement, it wasn't, just wasn't financially the right.
Move to make.
Yeah, it just didn't make sense, so, yeah.
Just didn't fit right.
Yeah, just, yeah, for whatever reason, that was 25 years ago.
That's what I worry about. Does the reimbursement cover a little bit, and then it balloons so big that reimbursement's kind of null and void to what we have, and it's just a big cost. So that's what I need to understand.
I understand.
I'd like to know what the, and maybe it's in here, Judge, but the attorney caseload limits and what our numbers are right now. Just an idea.
I had that from, what I have right now is outdated. He gave me a study of what this Derek Mason had given me, using our numbers, was able to give us information. There are some caseload limits. One of the concerns is what I have is finding attorneys who, because the limits, you know, the attorneys I have right now work in multiple counties. And so if an attorney is in multiple commission counties, those numbers all count. And so it limits the attorneys. You have to broaden your kind of scope of attorneys you can use. So that is a concern that I have, but I don't know what those, my recollection is right now, off the top of my head, the recommendation they made was using the same funding that we're currently using, putting out, we would have to add one attorney, but because of the reimbursement, that it's not an additional cost to the county under that model they proposed. It didn't include, and that wasn't having a staff and office and things like that, but that was just using kind of the contract model we're using now, but getting reimbursement.
Is it possible to get some of those, like, estimated numbers in writing?
I can,
Because of
I
course,
can see
without
if they're
them, I
willing to
have-
do another, I can see if they would do another
Yeah.
updated review of what we're paying, what our current costs are, what the caseload numbers look like, and what they would
Yeah.
do.
Because of course, without that, I have to assume a negative inference from it.
Sure.
Just based on the lack of information.
Sure, I'm happy to see if they want to do that again for us.
Thank you.
Yes.
Add that to next, just keep the conversation going until we figure out which way to go.
Very good.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Judge.
Mr. Poindexter.
How are you all doing today?
Good, how are you?
Doing great, thank you. Good. Well, I am here to get your signature on the 2026 Community Corrections Grant. We are deadlined on Friday to have it uploaded to DOC on their new e-grant system. We have everything done. The advisory board has done their part, reviewed it, and I believe we're in good shape. I emailed to Lisa after she emailed me this morning the grant application narrative. So I think she got that out to you at lunchtime.
We actually haven't reviewed
I was at the meeting, so if it hasn't changed, then I'm okay with it.
Yeah, we've confirmed that the board has approved this application.
I brought along the board letter that was signed as well, so. And I've got an official letter for you guys to sign off on whenever you're ready for me to approach.
I'll make a motion unless you guys have further questions regarding, I'll make a motion to accept it.
the second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
3-0.
Thanks, sir.
And I appreciate all the years that I've been able to present grants to the commissioners, and I'm not going to say that I'm too upset about not having to do grants anymore.
Not the highlight.
Just a little bit of housekeeping for the department. I've currently been working with Field Operations Supervisor Scott Trammell, and he is going to be taking over the pre-screen process, reports, and submitting reports to the courts and through the clerk's office on those that we need to file through them. He's also been prepped on doing my weekly and quarterly and monthly reports so that he knows what's going on as well. Trying to give you some residual knowledge within the department that's current and up to date to what mine is. So as you go through the process, you've got some depth on the bench in-house.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
I think Lisa's gonna make a copy of that for our records and,
You all have a great day now.
You too. Thank you.
see a whole crew of RSD back there.
I guess Ryan said I get to go first. Hope my speech is short. I'll try to make it short. As a septic installer in Wells County for over 40 years, I know the difficulty of finding a suitable site for a septic system in much of Wells County. Folks spend at least $1,000 just to be told that the site for their dream home is not suitable for a septic system, and a septic system cannot be installed. As we all know, the purpose of the regional sewer district is not for new construction. It is for septic elimination. However, the regional sewer district is a viable option for folks who want to build a new home or business in the area that we serve, or to make improvements to an existing home. And we welcome new customers. So, the cost of connecting a new structure to the RSD is very similar to installing a septic system. This is for new construction. But there are advantages to connecting to our system. Number one, connecting to the sewer allows homeowners to add bedrooms to the house. That's not currently possible without upgrading your septic system. And in many situations, an upgrade is not an answer because of site restrictions and things. So, connection to the sewer frees up the property. without a huge part of the backyard or side yard being taken up by a septic system, the area can be used for anything that the homeowner wishes. It could be a pond, an outbuilding, or a pool. It sure beats a mound and an ugly pipe sticking up in their yard. And instead of being required to buy 2 acres minimum, the proposed homeowner can now buy a half acre if they are connecting to our sewer. That's a sizable savings for the people that are wanting to build, and it saves our farm ground, and I think that's important. The other thing is the RSD maintains the grinder or the gravity main for the next 30 years. This gives homeowners peace of mind, kind of like a mayor does if you live in the city. And I guess that means I'm kind of the mayor. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan.
Thank you, LA. As LA mentioned, I'm Ryan Layfeld with Choice One Engineering. We're the design engineering consultant for the RSD, dating back to when we just started doing some of the preliminary studies back in 2018. So we appreciate your time this evening and kind of going through some of the history of the RSD, what we've completed, where we're going, and what some of the impacts have been throughout this time. So some of the historical background, how does this all start? I think we get that question from everybody. Why are you guys even here? Back in 2005, you guys received an order as the commissioners from IDEM essentially saying you have off-lot discharges. What does that mean? Basically, somebody's septic system is getting outside their property boundaries on somebody else's property. That's a big no-no in the state's eyes, and that's what they're trying to eliminate. So when we talk about failing septics or off-lot discharges, that's what we're talking about. So basically, they put an order on the county to look and start investigating means and methods on how to resolve that issue. And that project, as most of you guys probably are aware of or heard it before, is the McKinney-Paxton Ditch. So that project was basically notified back to the county back in 2005, then to 2009. The RSD board was finally formed. So you can see there was time through there. One, everybody's probably trying to figure out what is the RSD or how do we get there? How do we do this? It's probably a brand new project or issue for the county. So it makes sense that there was time involved through there. But ultimately that project was turned over to Bluffton, as you guys are aware, because the RSD at that point had 0 customers. So that means 0 revenue. So that's very hard to start a project with $0, as we can so see as we go forward. Then the overall theme of this is partnerships and how that works to not just benefit the county, benefit the RSD, benefit the public, benefit the cities that surround it as well. So as we can see, basically going back to the historical background, we had the initial project study that was kicked off in 2018. That's not possible without the commissioner's grant assistance. So the grant was received that 5 different areas could be studied, consisting of Murray, Liberty Center, Craigville, the Timber Ridge area, or Country Club Estates is what it's also referenced as, in the Northern Ossian area. Those 5 areas were included in that preliminary engineering report that essentially could establish means, methods, and options on how to resolve those issues, but also how do we take those to pursue financing, the ultimate goal of resolving the issue. And as that was undertaken, additional grant financing was available that was also secured, that the commissioners aided with as well, so that we could study the remaining unincorporated communities throughout the Wells County area that wasn't already serviced by sanitary, I should mention. So that's Keystone, Riceburg, Petroleum, Kingsland, Toxin. So basically, the RSD was kind of stuck and stagnant without aid. And with your guys' aid, it allowed the opportunity for something to move forward. Other partnerships that we would see in the past, the State Revolving Loan Fund through the Indiana Finance Authority has obviously been a big friend of ours, as you've probably read in the papers over the years of the grant secures that we've received. The commissioners, you guys have obviously been a big aid in our arm in seeing some of these projects be resolved, namely Nate Rumslog's help providing his salary. That was a big guide for the sewers district and his knowledge, specifically bringing that over from Adams County and being a part of a board. So that was very instrumental in getting things started. The financial aid for the studies, the $500,000 loan that kickstarted Project 1. Without that, that project probably would have stalled out as well. And then even going to the ARPA allocation, which we'll mention later, that $2 million grant, what really aided in keeping user rates where they're at today. So going into some of these projects, and I'll just try to highlight them quickly so I don't bore everybody. The first project area that we looked at implementing was the 3 different areas. So that was Murray, Liberty Center, and Craigville. So we submitted a package to the state to get all 3 of those secured at one time. It was aggressive, yeah, but being aggressive at that time was a good thing. That's when the COVID stimulus money was out. There was ample money supply. So we were a new district as well in the sense of application process. So we scored very well very quickly. So in that round, we secured $6.6 million in forgivable loan grant. That was a big aid when you're talking about a $7 million project and just trying to get stuff started, because implementing an RSD and getting it started is very, very expensive, and it's hard to maintain. A lot of these pieces break over time. So that was a big shot in the arm to keeping rates under $100. So both of those project areas, Murray and Liberty Center, like I mentioned, is $7 million in construction costs. You had 6.6 in grant. That's 206 homes we serviced. That's a large area that we've aided and helped. Project lasted from 2021 to 2023. Convenient delays and materials that really strung out for us on that one. Was a great learning experience though, and things that we could do to help protect the RSD in the future projects. But overall, $95 a month is what we were able to secure, which was a big win because the numbers we were initially talking about were much higher. So that was a big win over the course of time. Then going on to the next application cycle, when we talk about project 2, we got very aggressive again, thinking, hey, if we got 6.6 the first time, let's shoot for that again. Well, we were able to secure $5 million in forgivable loan from a special grant allocation from the state. That fell short for those 3 areas. Those 3 areas was, probably talking $12 million in construction costs. We could not accept that much loan. I would have created the user rates to be too high, and what we've always heard from the public and from county council and you guys as the commissioners was we want to keep rates down. So what we did is we cut everything back. We moved forward just with the Craigville project, and that alone was a $6 million construction cost. So we had the $5 million and this from the state, and then we also had the $2 million in ARPA funds that you guys turned over to the RSD that also aided in getting that project completed. So you're probably thinking, well, $7 million to $6 million, where did that extra million go? That went to also aiding in getting the Kingsland toxin areas designed and ready to go for construction, but also those dollars are then rolled forward into the Kingsland area. And just as a note, after that Craigville project, because of all those grant assistance, we get able to keep rates the same, which is very difficult to do. Another big win for the RSD. But that brought us to project areas 3, which then was Kingsland toxin. Basically, we took both of those projects, we pulled them forward and say, hey, it's time to move forward with these again. We received $2 million in forgivable loan. Basically, the state said, hey, we're running out of money. We're not giving you $5 million at a time anymore. $2 million is kind of your max. You need to figure things out at $2 million at a time, which really, really constricted things. So we had to go with Kingsland because toxin goes to Kingsland, which goes to Murray. So we were kind of stuck with what we could go with. Really, toxin's probably the more economical one to move forward with, more connections, so the user per cost was down. But Kingsland was the only thing really we could afford at the time, the only thing that made sense. So that project cost was another $4 million. So we had $2 million in grants, another 67 connections. Another big win though, rates stayed the same. We were still at $95 a month. So that was another big win that aided in that. But now that brings us to where we are today with the toxin project. We've had probably 2 public meetings, and they've probably been the most easy public meetings I've ever had as an engineer for regional sewer district projects. Usually I walk in and say, hey, well, let's put a regional sewer district in your area, and they look at me and bring out their pitchfork and everything else. So I would say we probably had in the range of 50 to 60 people there that evening, and it was actually very supportive, and I was actually surprised when most of them were angry at us for not having the project done yet. So we've alluded to a lot of that to the state. We've been working with them very diligently on getting this to move forward. And what we're looking at now, just process of where this job is in the current stages. Application is in SRF's hands. We have time to amend and add additional information in. We've had meetings consistently out throughout the end of the application cycle last year to even to this year's cycle. We did score some wins. They are allowing us to look at Toxin as a low to moderate income area, which allows additional grant allocations in our favor. It opens us up to some other things that other project areas aren't. So that was a big win. We fought for that one for a couple years, but we finally got there. But the big thing we're looking forward, it's project ready, it's designed complete. So we've been trying to tell the state, hey, we're ready to go. And they're telling us, however, we're looking at what are you guys willing to kick back in? One of the scoring criteria that they really emphasized with us over the course of time has been, what is your local match? Your guys' application does score well, but what's your local match? So we've took that to note. We're trying to figure out different methodologies to get there. This project cost, if we would have done it, years ago, we probably would have saved it over $1 million in just this project alone. But inflation that has roared its head over the last 5 years, and it's definitely hurt us in that sense. But we're still at a $4.8 million project with 117 connections. But the thing that we are still unaware of is what's our final rate. Our final rate is going to a lot be determined on what the state can allocate. And currently, we're still trying to shoot for that $2 million number that they've told us. We do have some additional funds left over from previous grant cycles that we are going to carry over and utilize. So we do have some means to try to keep rates down. But still, some of that's still unknown. We'll know a little bit better in the July timeframe where we score, and then probably later in the fall of how much money they're going to allocate to Wells County Sewer District. So that's kind of a breakdown of roughly where we're going. If we find out things are favorable and the rates are going to stay fairly comparable where they're at today or the same, we will proceed and probably be bidding as fast as November. And we may not know that until September. I mean, as fast as we know, probably the next month we could be out. So our goal is to have basically this project ready to construct for next year's construction cycle. It'll probably be at least a year, 2 years. Most of them have been about 1.5 years, but probably 2 years will be a fairly safe time frame. So project completion, you're probably talking end of 2027 realistically, even until the early part of 2028, just depending on how things fall. So
I forgot to look. How many users in Toxin were you talking? And
there's 117 that will be added to that. So I think we're a shade over 400 now. So with that, we'll be just over 500, which is kind of the mark to where RSDs can be a little bit more self-sufficient, but it's still, I'll say, difficult depending on the type of systems you have. We have a lot of grinder stations, which are shorter life cycles with pumps, but overall, it'll be more amenable than what we were in the beginning when we were talking just a couple hundred users where we were fighting tooth and nail for every penny. So future projects that are still on the docket, the Riceburg Petroleum and Keystone areas, that's another $13.5 million that we're still shooting for in the future to try to aid, to push to get the county to meeting that objective of stopping the awful lot discharges. So
Does the Toxin address the issues that we're having in Murray and that with the stagnant, the smell?
yes,
and
so
all that?
yes. How Murray was originally designed, those pumps were designed to take Kingsland and Toxin. So everything downstream was oversized so we didn't have to build it twice. So when we put Kingsland in, Kingsland's really sized to take Toxin with it. And that was stressed through the grant cycle, but when they only give you so much, you can only proceed with so much. So with the additional flow, that'll keep that water from being so stagnant, and those cycles and those pumps will pump more frequently, where that should aid tremendously.
Reminds me of Veracruz.
Oh, yeah.
Oversized when it was coming back in the
So those jobs alone, you're talking right there, you're probably about another 250 connections throughout the different areas. The Riceburg and Petroleum, we're still planning probably to send to Bluffton with our current interlocal agreement with Bluffton.
You can't do petroleum unless you have Riceburg.
You got it. So it's another game where we're staging, exactly.
That will have to have really
Yes.
consideration. I mean,
Right.
That's,
And Riceburg's so small that
Yeah.
We have, we need to do those together.
That's going to be a
Either
special
we do it
project.
or we do something different than part of the RSD project.
Correct. There's been different options that we've talked about. Those I'll say, well, after the toxin area is probably complete, I think that the RSD is going to take a breath and see where we're at, reevaluate some of those areas. Are the better things we can achieve that the state would see conducive to potentially better financing options, stuff like that. So,
The two things you mentioned was Timber Ridge. City of Bluffton took that,
yes,
and also the North Ossian project.
correct.
Town of Ossian.
They took that one over, yes.
They have a bond for that, and that's gonna include the trailer park. Correct?
That's what we were made aware of, but
You know
it's,
that,
I don't know about the trailer park. They're already connected in a different way.
right, but
Yes.
they have a lot of stormwater that infrastructure.
Yes. So I don't know. I know that right now they're going to 1050 and
Okay,
that construction is happening as we speak.
right, yep, drove by it today. so.
yeah.
So do you guys have a funding request, or are you just waiting to find out what the state is willing to put up, and then?
That was my question to him when I called him. I said, well, if we offer you 50,000 or if we offer you 250,000, what makes a difference on what rate you're gonna charge, you know? What technically is the ask?
So we've been working with Baker Tilly, Jeff Rao with Baker Tilly's looked at some initial numbers, and the numbers that they were kind of looking at is around that $200,000 range of what we're trying to shoot for to keep rates near where we're at today. That's the number that he's looked at, and that's probably what we'll be shooting for today. We understand that. I know one of the questions you asked Blake was, do we have to commit with this today? Do you need it today? The answer is no. We have the option of, like I mentioned, the 2-year construction cycle that it could be allocated in smaller chunks over that time period to aid in that as well. The other benefit of that being we'll have a better understanding of how the bidding comes in at that time. Bidding has gotten a lot more aggressive recently as opposed to what it's been in the last couple of years. There's been enough projects on the docket. It's been, hey, we got one bidder, great. Recently, we've seen it's a lot more competitive, so that may work to our advantage. I mean, it's all about timing, and a lot of this has worked out that way as well. So, the big piece that we look at now, and like LA mentioned, it's not really a component we can focus on. The state ignores it essentially. Is the economic development piece. What has this brought in? And we talk about the partnerships, how the RSD has kind of been that first cog in the wheel that's really helped surrounding communities with some of their, I'll say, outlying projects that they could never pull in. The one thing with the Dustin Road Interceptor, the city of Bluffton had that on their books for decades. And that was able to be achieved because of the Craigville project. Basically, we could go with the city of Bluffton to SRF and say, hey, we need them to have this or else we're just going to sit here and we'll just let those properties as they are. Well, if the state hears that and say, okay, we need to do something, now they're more conducive to helping the city and they hear that regionalization aspect on how are we working together to get this resolved. That project alone was $4.5 million. The city of Bluffton's also talking about wastewater treatment improvements that you've probably seen in the paper. That's $21 million that they're talking about doing as well. That's being used along with their RSD saying that, hey, there's all these areas we're looking at incorporating in the future that are going to come to this plant. The state enjoys seeing it go to one plant because plants are very expensive and cost prohibitive to have these small little package plants all spread for all throughout the county. So that's another thing they're utilizing in the RSD's name to help them secure funding. The Murray Storm Sewer projects that was completed right after the sanitary. That project would never have happened if we didn't do the sanitary sewer. It's pretty hard to put new storm sewer in when not knowing, I'll say that the water that was still entering that storm sewer wasn't just water. The Timber Ridge area, that was another area that the city of Bluffton could utilize as a component as well. And then Ossian's also been using the RSD's report that you guys funded in order to secure financing as well. So the RSD has been a great regional tool for the surrounding area, not just the RSD to benefit from, and it's been huge. I know Bluffton and Ossian also been able to utilize it to bargain down some of their existing interest rates with the SRF as well. So it's been a huge piece to helping out Wells County in general.
I hear that, but I also heard here lately in the last week that the sewer plant doesn't have enough capacity for new housing. Is that, I mean, we talk about Craigville, or we talk about Toxin, or we talk about Kingsland, and one of the benefits being that we can go down to 1 acre, 1.5 acres, whatever that is. Is that factual, or is it a pipe dream that we could, once the system can handle more houses? Because right now, I don't want the public to think, hey, this is the be-all, solve-all, that we can all, now all of a sudden, all these areas can grow, because I don't think that's the case right now.
I don't know the exact numbers with their plan. I have heard that issue. How they're factoring those numbers, I'm not aware of. Basically, when we did the interlocal agreements with the city, they're allowing us to reserve so many connections. And we're being diligent in the sense let's say we're coming in with a project with 100 connections, we're reserving 150. So we have that flexibility to add some of that stuff in, because those connections aren't going to get any cheaper in the future, and it's just going to hurt the district in the long run. So we have some of that built in that the grant's paying for. So there's those additional connections they could be factoring in to say, hey, we don't have capacity, because they need to factor that in, because if a big housing development comes in and they need to take it, well, part of our agreement says you can. And so they could be
Do we know
factoring
that
some of
now?
that.
Can the system handle the 117 or the 150 from Toxin, plus some nominal growth from Timber Ridge, or maybe, I don't know what other developments are underway? You have D.R. Horton that's up there that's adding capacity. There's some vacancy, I think, over in North Oaks and the Woodlands. Do we have enough capacity to handle all this? 'Cause I hate to see us go, I'm not saying that we don't do Toxin by any means, but I don't want to overcommit on a system
Yep.
that can't handle it either.
The city's been aware of this project since we originally applied back in Project 2. So it's been years they're aware that this project's out there. I would say that they would be okay submitting or accepting that one, because they've known about it. The other ones that we've talked to them about, but we knew that were farther out, maybe those are on the back burner until we know better with their system. But then again, that's where we use some of those outlying systems to help Bluffton achieve their goal of that treatment plant. So is there capacity? Yeah, it's kind of a game when you apply for financing. You have to tell them, oh, we're so bad, but yeah, okay, but we're not that bad, but we're bad enough, we still need money. It's kind of a game, and you unfortunately have to let things get bad enough to where they notice in order to achieve financing, or else you won't receive it. But yet not bad enough where you're failing, where you're throwing up all the red alarms every day. It's unfortunately a tough game that we keep trying to tell the state it'd be nice if we're trying to be proactive, there's something available for that, but that's not there yet.
Yeah, it's a balancing act. Yes, yeah. I mean,
You're on a tightrope.
they're doing at the treatment plant right now, building capacity out to Wausau, getting it.
I guess when you guys come back and we talk about financing, I'd like to know, what can the treatment plant handle?
Well, even
What does the plan look like? Because we need housing. We need housing in the community, and we know that. So
Yep.
how do we balance that out?
Yeah, I 100% agree. The great thing that we have seen with these projects is there have been housing starts that have occurred. Craigville alone, there's been $3 million in investment in different housing or business growth alone. And that project, like we talked about, was $6 million. You had a 50% return already just in investment back in that area. Trueland being the big one, obviously, that you've seen out there. You have Right Insurance that was out there, and then there was 90 residential homes that were put up there. So you had the $3 million in just the residential homes, and then the two businesses was $1.8 million. So that's great return. Property taxes that will be coming in from now until eternity. So great sign. Like I said, it's not something we can plan for or a factor in, but I've yet to see in any RSD I've ever worked with this not happen. It's always opened things up. So the nice part is, even with the Craigville area, there's 2 people reserving essentially taps now, so they're interested in, and then there's 5 additional property starts that are still going through their planning processes. So a lot's moving just in that area alone. And then to go into the the Murray and Kingsland area. So Murray's had 6 new residential starts at $2 million, 1 commercial building that's about $700,000. 3 properties still on interim rates for future connections. Kingsland, another $1 million in residential houses for the 3 different houses that are there, and 3 of them that are now on interim rates as well for future growth. That's $8.5 million invested back into Wells County because the RSD was there. So the good thing is we're now showing people there is a payoff coming. It took a while for people to see and understand, but there's good people in this county that want to live in this county because they see it as a good place to take residence, and that's where we're finally seeing those impacts are starting to come down the line, and they're starting to happen faster and faster. So I think talk to LA a lot more about new connections, I think, every month. So.
When's your deadline to apply?
So they have the application now, but the final scoring is, I think, June, end of June, and then that list comes out in July. So what we're realistically looking for is probably something in the May timeframe so that we can resubmit back to them, say, hey, this is our package, this is what we're coming in with our final amount. At that time, we'll probably have a better understanding to show you guys what those rates will look like with those different investments and different asks that we're looking through the state to give you guys a better understanding of what we're looking at.
Could you look at 3 different payments if we come up with a smaller amount instead of one bigger amount, or I'm just throwing this out?
We can have Baker Tilly look at different options, absolutely.
Because I don't know the timing of your project and the timing we need to have a commitment in dollars in hand or whatever, if we choose or chooses to follow that. But
I think that's possible, but we probably have to, have some sort of written commitment that here's the amount and here's what the timing is.
Yeah.
And that can be factored into the actual financing in terms of when those draws would occur. So kind of like a draw on a construction loan or something like that, I think that's possible.
I'm okay with this, but I would like to have more conversation and maybe make it at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Because you need it by your meeting in May, you said?
I would say May would be a good time frame. We can go back to the state that they have enough to reevaluate the application, enough time, or if they have questions, we can go back and forth if necessary.
We want to make sure the rate's affordable too. You talk about every one of those locations is on the lower median end of income, so we need to make sure that we're not putting a burden on somebody that bankrupts them, right?
Mark, anything to say?
It's just the cooperation and participation by the county with the RSD. That's another thing that they look at when they go through their scoring, their scorecard. And then when they see, hey, the county's invested too, then that helps, and that potentially bumps us up into the getting funding, or maybe more funding than we would have otherwise got. So that really, it helps. I think the whole scoring landscape, how these projects are scored and money's been awarded, it has changed in the last 2 years. And like Ryan said, we're back to don't ask for more than $2 million. And, you're gonna have to size your projects accordingly and plan on borrowing. And if you need more money, you're gonna have to get it somewhere else. And the competition is through the roof. So we're seeing a lot less funds, more competition. So we're trying to figure out how do we get to where we were trying to get, and that is get toxin in, because this is the 4th, time we've tried to do toxin. The first time wasn't realistic. The second and third were, and now here we're number 4, and we're not even sure if we're gonna get through this time. And you're right, I mean, that system is designed to flow from toxin through Kingsland, through Murray, to keep that thing flushed and, and size-wise, I agree with Ryan that, in terms of size of a sewer district, you really need to be 500 plus users in order to be able to support the staff that you need, like LA, and, somebody part-time or at least on contract when pumps go bad. You gotta be able to go out and take care of that stuff.
Yeah, I welcome the scrutiny. We need to sharpen our pencils and make sure every project we have has payback and that we're spending the taxpayers' money wisely. If money's flowing like it used to in 2020, I think there's a lot of projects statewide that were overspent and people thought there was no end to it, so I welcome it being tighter, and let's make sure we're spending every dime like we should be.
Well, I sure think that the money that we saved on those projects when we're able to roll over into Kingsland is an example of how the RSD is handling things.
And the payback, 50% return in 24 months, 36 months, sign me up for that all day long.
The county really got lucky being, at the right place at the right time in terms of how things were designed, because that was an aberration compared to all other years. And what was it, 2020?
2020.
2020, when the district got 6.6 million. And Wells County, I think, was number one, scored first. Number one in the state, priority. And man, it's like lightning. It doesn't strike twice.
Well, that was good and bad. We had a lot of gray water rising to the surface that we'd rather not have, right?
Like we said, it's a balancing act.
I think we can either make it at the next meeting or the first meeting of May
We'll try
before
to get you
your
some more
May
information.
meeting.
I'll talk to Baker Tilly, specifically that rate, and show you guys where that lends that project to be.
Try to sweet talk Jim McGough too, if you can.
We've been talking.
When the temperature gets up to 80 degrees, the people from Timber Ridge are going to be calling you. So,
Oh, yeah.
help us out, and we'll help them out.
We appreciate you guys' time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Perry.
Bobby, you're on here twice. Thanks.
I didn't either.
You brought reinforcements.
About reinforcements, yes, I did. Okay. Hi, guys, how are you tonight?
Doing well.
Busy?
Good.
Busy today. Okay. Mainly I'm here tonight because our heating system is 25 plus years old now, and our parts to that heating system are obsolete for replacement. And most we've been able to muddle through most of the time. But now we're to a point where we've had to, the auditor's office was our sample one, that they had a whole unit go down. We can't get those units anymore, or that type. Is that correct, Dylan? Zach? And they retrofit it to make it, work the best we can. But we're finding that the system itself is not communicating with the whole building with this. So the auditor's office, for example, is either extremely hot in the summertime and can't cool down, or very, very cool in the wintertime and can't heat up very easily without, like heaters and stuff, and we don't want to see that coming in if we don't have to. But what this system is, we have two of the guys from Dilling here, which is the quote that came in. I did get 3 people called. I have letters from 2 stating that they didn't want to bid that the way we did, and so that's why we have the one group right now in to kind of explain to you a little bit more detail of what the system does and what the new programming will be. And so I'll just let them kind of talk you through the new control system for that and how it would affect all the units in the building.
Zach Dobson here, I'm with the Dillon Group. Thank you for having us, really do appreciate it. I do want to say we've been the primary mechanical service contractor for the Wells County Courthouse since 2012. So we've been a partner for a long time. What we're here to talk about today is the building management system. As you know, commercial buildings don't run off standard thermostats like your houses do. They run off of a pretty advanced computer system. Well, like your computer at home, this system is 25 years old. The parts and pieces for this are extremely obsolete. So as Bobby stated, we are, every single time we have a failure, we are doing what we can to keep the system online. The unit she spoke about in the auditor's office the main controller on the unit went down. So we had to get a newer version, but that newer version doesn't exactly, on a communication standpoint, talk to the system that's there currently. So we had to get an external board to make it talk. I'm the head of the service department. This is Ned Raver. He is the head of our controls division, so he can kind of go into more detail and explain this.
Main problem you have is the communications protocol that the building runs on. It's called LAN. LAN uses a proprietary chip. To be LAN Mark certified, you have to install this chip on your device. There was only 2 manufacturers of this chip. One was Texas Instruments and the other one was Toshiba. Well, Texas Instruments quit making it last year. Most manufacturers decided to move away from it since it was a single source chip. Something happened with Toshiba, they couldn't get them. So with manufacturers moving away from LAN to BACnet, well, they're obsolete in all their LAN controllers. That's the problem we have. All the communicating boards in the fan coils are LAN Mark boards. They're not available, you can't buy them. The auditor's office, we had a LAN controller in stock at our shop, and that's how we got it back on the system. The problem is we can't get them anymore either. So what this does is we're basically going to bring the building into the 21st century. We'll replace all 43 of the fan coil controllers, and we're not going to use serial communications, which is just single 2-wire. It's all going to be IP based. Everything's faster. It's more robust. It just works better. Which I know that's something Bobby's had an issue with, is communications. What was it, 2 years ago? You took a lightning strike? Yeah, they took a lightning strike at the courthouse about 2 years ago, and we have had issues with communications since. When lightning strikes a building, it throws out weird frequencies that controls don't like, and you start getting mismatched communications, and then the whole building goes down. Been pretty lucky so far. We've managed to get it back, but at some point we're just not going to be able to get it back talking.
So none of this is really hardware. This is all IP communicators. It's not.
Well,
it's not heat exchangers or boilers or anything.
No.
It's just controls.
Yeah, this is just controls. The only real hardware is the 43 unitary controllers for the fan coils, and there's one for the boiler room.
So this is both heating and cooling?
Yes. I had talked to Bobby about it, but the first number does not include replacing the control valves. The second number is with the control valves.
I would like to see it go with the control valves, because if we're doing it, I would like to get it all up to date at the same time. So I'm kind of really going towards that second line if at all possible, just because I know how many we have to replace yearly, 2 to 4, sometimes a year replacing right now, so.
What time frame is this? I mean, is this gonna, this year, this fall, next spring?
No, we're talking, I mean, I'm looking sooner the better, just because we bought this all last summer. I mean, they were hot in their office in there, to the fact I was almost ready to go buy like those room air conditioners just to get them through till we, because I might not do that. And I hear this quite often when I go fought this for like a year. I think I talked to you last year about this. Trying to get through the winter, and then before the summer would get really hot, we would get something done, so we weren't down when it's really, really cold, and down maybe when it's really, really hot.
What do we have in a budget for this? Anything? Is there any money?
My budget right now is getting thin. It would probably have to come from someplace else for this project. I personally have like, my budget at my budget itself is down a little over half, and we're not quite half here yet.
So I guess we're at failure mode.
We are right close now. We're to the point where I couldn't wait anymore to kind of bring this in.
Where would these funds come from? Lit?
I mean, what rolls over out of my budget that isn't used the rest of the year, you know, could possibly be put into that, but until the end of the year, I won't know where my funds lay, because I could have a major building thing like the, you know, the jail had or something in this building that would take me and wipe it out in a day or two, you know, or a week. With these older buildings, you're talking big dollar repair when you're talking repairs on this stuff.
Guys, give us a time frame. Get this done in a week, or you're gonna need 3 months?
Oh, this is gonna be more like a 2-month project.
2 months?
When we do retrofits like that, we like to do scheduling in the offices. So we'll let everybody know a couple weeks ahead of time, hey, we're gonna be in here this day. So we're not interfering with workflow.
Which means when their ladders are up, they can still get around, and if it's like the courtrooms, we have to schedule around all their court hearings and jury trials to make sure that we're not gonna interrupt any court stuff at that time. That'll be the hardest areas to get into.
Yeah.
It really needs to be like this 285 plus a contingency, because I can't imagine a 25-year-old system, you're not gonna run into some kind of mechanical repairs while we're there.
How we usually handle those is, as we're going through, if we find mechanical issues, we make a list, and then we'll propose it to Bobby and say, hey, we found this, how do you wanna handle it? And then at that point, we either code it, or just, if it's a small fix, we just fix it.
And I would like to add, you know, a project of like this, you know, you're gonna have, it's not like for the entire 2 months, the whole system's gonna be down, but you will have, you know, sections that are down. So preferably not in the, you know, heat of the summer where it's, you know, 90+ degrees outside. And I would also like to add, you know, last year we fought it for a while. Luckily, one of our controls foreman only lives a couple blocks away from the courthouse, so he's able to go there quite a bit, which on this proposed project, that gentleman would be kind of the one running the project. So, I mean, he's very, very local, so it's not like, you know.
And when I call, he's there. I mean, if I call, and he's usually there within an hour or two of all possible repairs.
What did we spend last year, do you think? Just a guesstimation on just fighting this thing? This year and last year?
I would say a good third or more of my budget last year was spent.
Which
on
is
keeping
how
it,
much?
Which would be, my budget's usually for my repairs is around 90,000.
30 of it?
I would say at least 30,000.
So just based on repair costs, it's a
Just
10-year return.
I'm gonna interject. The project this size and the capital nature of it, we want to make sure, I really do appreciate Bobby going out and requesting the 3 quotes. We want to make sure that we're properly noticing this to get proper bids. I'm sure that the Dilling Group's bid's going to be very responsive, but just with something this size, I want us to review and make sure we're following the purchasing process appropriately before you make a decision on how to move forward with this. I don't want to put it off either. But we need to make sure we're doing this the right way.
The one group that I did get from was a group that worked with this company in the very beginning before this group took over, so they were aware of the building. Their biggest thing is the graphics parts that we do for controlling is something they don't do. They have to get that out anyway. And I had said, you know, that we were looking at billing, was I was forthright with them.
One thing to add to this, 2 years ago when we took a lightning strike, it wiped out the front end, and we actually replaced that. So it's only 2 years old. So we're gonna reuse that on this project. We'll just rebuild the programming and the graphics.
So Ted, we need some guidance on how to take this out for bid and
Yep.
public notice and all that.
If that's required, because this is in that weird area.
So give us till next meeting to get some understanding of what we need to do, and then give you some counsel. I don't think anybody's saying don't do it. I mean, if it's dead, it's dead. We just gotta figure out how to do it and do it legally, right?
Yeah, got to do it properly.
So
Thanks.
Felger could bid this, just they would have to take the graphics, translation to your computer monitor out for bid with some other group is what you're telling me. Okay.
Pretty much, yeah.
You got part two though, right?
I got part two. They're done. But I got part
Thanks a
two.
lot.
Thank
Hey,
you all,
thank
really appreciate it.
I'll get back with you.
Yep.
Thank you much. Okay. Now, which brings me to the ADA projects. Okay. Here, come on. ADA, I've been working with Nate, you know, on this last year and stuff. We're looking at a few of the sidewalk issues that we thought maybe within a few years we could get accomplished. In the meantime, we've had some issues come up in the courtroom, restroom areas during a jury trial in this, where until you really see how the bathrooms are laid out at the courthouse in the jury room, there is not a handicap accessible one in the room there, so we haven't had it open to the public. However, we do have handicap accessible restrooms downstairs that are available to be used, but during a jury trial, when they're in doing their deliberations, the judge kind of would rather have, I think, the restrooms in his room, because I had mentioned that, and he said we need to have them here. And that being said, I would like to kind of put that ADA money towards handicap restrooms this year to be able to use that up towards it. It's not at all going to cover it. And I've had one company here to look at it already, and I have two more coming in the next few, one tomorrow and the other one is scheduling, so I'll know for sure when. But the one that I have gotten in here to look at, it's going to be a little bit bigger project than what I had originally thought it was going to be. And due to that, he felt he would only bid this if we had an engineer involved to make sure that the ceilings and the flooring would be able to handle the construction that would come with putting new drains in for the new handicap toilets. I agree, only because I know how the building walls crack or plaster can fall off and stuff, whether the brick underneath is probably, you know, the building's sound. It's just how that much drilling would handle it. They want to make sure everything's safe, as we all do, to make sure that's right. So the cost on that's going to be quite a bit, because what we have now, just FYI, is the ladies' room, where the issues are happening the most right now, is you have to go up a step. So we thought, oh, we'll put a ramp, which doesn't solve anything, because once you get up there, you have to take another step up to where the toilet's set. And that is because all the plumbing is running above ground under, and you had to raise the toilets back then to be able to get it to drain over to the drains. So with all the plumbing being underneath, there's a platform you step up one to get up to the two toilets that are in there. So that cannot be really redone at any way to make that a handicap accessible restroom. So we have a men's room also up there, which has been built over the years in a small closet. So the closet is just barely wide enough for a toilet to sit in. I'm just painting a picture here. So there's no way that a handicap person or anyone could get into that to actually use that with any disabilities of any kind. So that being said, we would have to build that room out just a little bit bigger than it is and a little bit longer, be able to get the 5-foot clearance that's required around it when building a new handicap restroom, and get the drain where it needs to be, which would be through the floor and then out and over to a drain. The amount that I get from ADA is roughly $10,000 a year. And that would maybe just cover the most part of the engineer to come look at what we're doing on this project, not covering the actual restroom. And the thought is one unisex handicap restroom in that room is what we are looking at. So I have no idea exactly how much it's going to cost, but I know it's going to be quite a bit more than $10,000 even after we get the engineer to come and look at the flooring and stuff on that to make sure it's all sound enough to do so.
So Ted, this one's probably the same thing, that we need a process to go out and get a scope, to get an engineer, have that open bid to do a.
Actually, the engineering architecture is services, so that could be done directly. It's always a good idea to request quotes, but you don't have to go through the publication or any process like that because it's services. However, under the Title IX and the ADA prospects that we have, I do believe that this is a good use of those funds for the ADA funds to hire an expert, either an architect or an engineer, to at least come up with the plans as to what needs to be done. And the engineer or architect is also going to be able to tell us if we retrofit, terrible word, if we modify the current bathroom, do we have to do other ADA requirements as well in order to maximize the accessibility. So I think that getting an engineer or an architect is good use, number one, of the ADA funds under the plan. And then if we have to do corrections or modifications, then that would go through a public project.
I'm looking back at Nate, because he's our engineer that has a lot of engineering resources. So can you work with Bobby to get some engineering resources to take sheets?
All right, that was the two main things I was on there for. I did get pricing on a door. Do you want me to bring that up now or later or another meeting or?
Yeah, I think the one thing to note on the bathroom first is that we did have a juror fall. The judge brought that up to me. So it's
And we
something
had
that's
that
happened.
about 3 years ago also, so it's not a first occurrence that's happened.
Yeah, it's happened.
It's you just walk out and forget it's there and walk down.
You just made Dan and Connor cringe.
No,
So-
do. I did. I did. It was not a good thing.
It was brought to my attention, the door at the front of the annex is deteriorated to the point that it's leaking, water's getting underneath, it's starting to pull the concrete up, so I asked Bobby to go out and get us some bids on replacing that entry door to the annex.
Right now, I only have just the one. And that was
Same
from
thing on the-
local. Yeah, that was local. Now I'll have to go out to the county, just so you know, on that one. So I'll go through Hartford and another one that I know that has the glass. Huh?
Hap, Bart, I don't know who the third one would be, but they all do entry doors like that.
Okay, yeah.
If you need some help, call me and I'll help you.
Yeah, I'll get some names from you, because I haven't dealt with that before, but I kind of vaguely know what it's gonna run, so that one can be handled through my office, so we don't have to ask for additionals on that one, so that would be nice. So, basically, that's pretty much all I have right now, unless you guys have some questions for me.
So Nate will get with you on the
Restroom 80.
the restroom. We'll follow up with Ted on what we need to do to bid out on the Dilling heating one, or the heating one.
Heating ones.
And then I'll get you some names on the doors.
Sounds great.
Thanks, Bobby.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.
You too.
Mr. Elwell. You guys have a copy of the ordinance for what we agreed to do on the fireworks in the past.
Good evening. How are you gentlemen tonight?
Doing well, how are you?
Good, thank you. I've seen the bathroom she's talking about, the small one. Imagine a phone booth with a toilet in it and no phone. Yeah, I sent some stuff to Lisa. Last year in July, I was lamenting to the mayor that I thought our fireworks presentation needed a refresh. And so he looked at me and said, handle it. So here I am. We are using a different vendor this year, and we've had a past relationship. I was going to read through the whole statement that excuse me, I'm dry, that I wrote, but in the essence of time, I'll just, you read through that, or you can read through that. We've had a partnership since, I think, '98, doing stuff together on fireworks, and so I was here tonight. The amount hasn't changed. It's $7,800 for half the show, and then the city of Bluffton would pick up the remainder. It's a great patriotic way to celebrate with our community our Independence Day. So I told the mayor I would pick up the torch, and here I am.
Do you know, was the initial, the company that did it, how long did they serve in that capacity?
Long time. It started with a guy out of Fort Wayne named Matt Lorraine who had a business doing it. And I really didn't know any of this until I started reading the previous contract and making phone calls. He'd since sold out to a company out of Pennsylvania. And so I made repeated phone calls to them and never did get a phone call back. The way I understand it is that they've got an area sales rep and then they subcontract the job. And so what happens is there's a couple layers of commissions there that are had by people, and we end up getting maybe a lesser show than we could get if we handled it differently.
I know I asked Lisa to check, our coordination with the city has went back to '98.
Yeah, I see that.
So we've
That's on here.
27 years.
I had no idea it was that long.
I didn't either until I found out today.
She sent me that, and I
I
did
knew
not
it was
know that.
every year since I've been a commissioner, and that's 13, so.
So I'll add to this that these are one of the things that I think we really need to consider of where we're spending our money when we have the jail issue going on. We have issues in the courthouse that need to be done. We have ADA bathrooms. We have doors on the facilities that are leaking. I support the patriotic side of this, but I don't know that we have the funds to cover some of this right now. You know, $7,800 doesn't seem like a lot, but when all these start adding up and we're looking around about where we're bringing in funds, I really think we start evaluating needs and wants. Some could argue that this is a need. I would say at this point, with all the things we're facing, it's a want.
Is this a one-year contract?
It is, yes.
No automatic renewal?
No, I think given the fact that we're trying to do it, use a different vendor, that we wanted to evaluate that before we would propose a long-term relationship. Jeff, I understand your considerations. I'm on Bluffton Council, and our bucket of money's only so big. We appreciate your contribution on the pool, and this is just another one of those quality of life things that we've done together for a long time, but I understand where you're coming from.
It's not a poke in the eye, it's just,
Yeah.
you run out of money, and I don't think anybody wants to add to their tax burden either, so you just gotta step back and see which ones make sense and which ones don't. Thoughts?
I'm in agreement with you, Jeff.
I support it since we've been doing it. I think the value is there. I think the community deserves it as they're the county seat now. If they say, well, Ossian should have it, and Markle should have it, and whatever, they're not the county seat. That's just my opinion. I like it that this is a one time only. We reevaluate it next year, and what I would like to see at some point in time, if we're gonna contribute, or if we have been asked to contribute, we have a say in the negotiations. Because there's other instances that stays the same and we just pitch in half. And that number changes over the years.
I think that's a big one, Rick, and I've talked to the mayor about this too, is that, like the pool, part of my request for the pool is that a board be constructed, and the pool and its extras find a way to be profitable. I know there's a push about that, but this one, I would say the animal control, we pay half, but we don't sit, we have no guidance, we have no input. This one seems like a smaller one, but if we're gonna be funding part of the parks, there's gotta be a committee that says, hey, what's your opinion? Not just sign the check over.
Sure, understand.
Push from me to you to the city is,
Sure.
if you're gonna ask for half, give us half the input on what's gonna happen too. So this is just one example, not beating on you.
Fair enough.
The same with the pool. $800,000 is a lot. When you look at the percentage, maybe it's not a 50% match, but I think there needs to be a board that says how are those funds spent? So on this one, we haven't brought it to a resolution or a motion, but I can't support $7,800 for this year with all the things we have in front of us.
I'd say this, I think that, I enjoy the fireworks. I'm happy to put something in personally, but as far as county monies, I don't think so, but happy to write you a check.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, I appreciate that. I'll give you a call.
Please do.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, guys. Yep.
Chris? You can all come up if you want.
Good evening.
We're here with the Cemetery Commission for update of what's been going on here recently. We've been established for a few years. We've got all the cemeteries in tip-top shape from where they were when we started. And now we're at a stage where we're wanting to make the appearance of the certain cemeteries look more presentable. And the Murray Cemetery has the road splitting it, and it still has some active graves open in it. Is in major disarray of stone shapes and stuff, so we were requesting a project to work on this. So we've been on it for at least a year and a half.
2 years.
Just about 2 years. And everything's ducks are in the row, and we've met again last year. We took on a new member this year. She's been up to date. She's also approval of it. She's here in the back.
She's here tonight.
And so we're just at the point where we're ready to ask for a request to move forward with it at this point.
We have reorganized with Carrie, and we did have Jim Sturgeon come to one of our meetings in late January, and he spoke with us and saw that we were, communicating well with each other up on our paperwork. And I do believe he called Blake Gerber to give our blessing to him. And it's been a great project. A cemetery really goes to the county trustee, and if they don't wish to have it, which Mr. Ish back years ago, then it goes back to you, the commissioners. And that's how our group was formed in 2016. And I feel like we've been efficient, and we've really worked hard to keep the 4 that we can get to. The 5th one is way down on the Huntington County line, with no access unless you want to put a road in or street. And we did get 4 bids. The 2 was Stonehuggers.
Yeah.
They're from the area of Nashville. Then we had a gentleman come down, and he was from Silver Lake, and he felt like it was too big of a project for their distance. Then we had a gentleman that's a retired veteran from Huntington County. He came over and said he works by himself. He's aging, and he said, whoa, he prefers to work on small cemeteries, you know, the ones that's like 10 stones or less than 25. There's not too many people or companies out there that does this type of work. We were going to start on, if we get your blessings, we need to start on the east-north cemetery on the north side. That is where the stones are just crumbling. They're just out of the ground about so. There's some real veterans in that road. Carrie and I have worked in the Indiana room, and we have 400 names of the burials written. You know, they've recorded them through the library. And that's pretty good for 555 stones. There's 502 that are really in dire need. We would like to see if you would give us the blessing to be able to put the $50,000 in a line item, so we could use that fund to pay the company called Dalverners. He lives in Fort Wayne. We chose him because he's very near. Plus, I personally have worked around him and near him the last 2.5 years with the restoration of the old Ossian. I think it's wonderful. Some people wonder, why are you putting money in cemeteries? Well, all of a sudden, I start getting all these calls. Southern Wells, Northern Wells. Well, we need somebody to take care of ours. And I tell them, you know, please contact your township trustee. That's where the buck starts. You know, and I don't know, they've got a board, call it their board. But time is essential. If we don't do this project, they're gonna disintegrate. And it will probably take 4 years to get it done, because the window of time that he can work is mid-April till probably late October, because the temperature change. It needs to be about 50 degrees before he can really get any additives or things like that started, cement and things like that, whatever it needs. But this is our request.
We do, just so everybody knows, we do have 50 that we put in as a line item on the budget. Doesn't mean we have to grant 50, it doesn't mean we have to grant anything, but there is money allocated to this project in the 2025 budget. So I don't know that I want to go up first every time, but here's my concern, is that you guys have been here a couple times. One of them was disarray. I mean, it was an argument in front of our group. Chris, we've reached out a couple times to you. This is the first time I've seen you as the president. And then I seen a vote that came through the other day that was not public notice, followed none of the requirements for a board meeting. There was no public notice in advance. There was no topic. There was no agenda. So my struggle is that there's a request for $50,000 to a board that I believe your heart's there. Jerry, we talk all the time. I know that there's the want. I think we need to do this to the cemeteries. I have a hard time giving a $50,000 check without a plan, without a line item of what we're gonna do, who's gonna spend it, when's it gonna be spent. This is the first I've heard that it's gonna take 4 years. So do you need all 50 now? Do we split that up in percentages over 4 years? I need a bigger plan. Again, just like we just said with the fireworks, we've got plenty of things we have to spend money on.
And like I said, we weren't sure how our stage was. I've talked with Blake, and so we weren't sure. This is what we were talked to Lisa. This is kind of what we're starting the thing. So that's why we're here today. And then we said, who can get this? This is trying to get the ball started at this point.
Right, I mean, I walked the cemetery and got probably 20, 25 pictures. So on the north side, on the east side, it's probably one of the probably should be started there. I don't
Mhm.
know how you determine
Yeah,
where you
that's
start,
kinda
where you
what-
stop.
Yep.
I hate to make a commitment because I didn't, like you said, I didn't know it's gonna take you that long.
Well,
So can we go in and say, do this? And on top of this, we have other cemeteries that you plan to come back to. So for me, it's always you set a precedent and then you expect that or more down the road. Rather than let's hold it close to the vest, do it, show the results.
Yep.
Make sure everybody is thrilled and happy beyond belief because of what you did and what you accomplished. And then we can build upon that.
Exactly.
Rather than commit to $170-some thousand, type of deal. That's just kind of where I'm at. I'm not, and yeah, I walk that thing, you know, some you can't see, some are tipped, some are broken, some are, you know, leaning.
And like I said, as the other ones that we represent, the condition of those, like Old Bluffton, there's no reason to even try to put money into it because it's so old and you have to go there on accident to find it. The one out there at Batson, out there on the River Road, same way. We take care of all the tree maintenance and trying to keep the trees from falling over and breaking stones, which when that happens.
I was thrilled to see the yard and the condition, everything.
We got everything
in the
cleaned
spring.
up because we
Looks
were
really
knocking
good.
over,
Yep.
$5,000 repairs from a tree. Well, now we went around, and got all the trees taken care of, and we just dealt with the tree from this last storm system. But like I said, that other cemetery, being it still has open graves and people drive through it, that's our highest one we get calls and complained about. And like you said, you've seen the condition, they're shifting in the ground, they're all falling over, and it's like, with our budget of 15, we've keep trimming our budget down to, we've done a few every year, but it's like, people are still going, what are you doing about these stones? Well, we fixed 3, that's all we could do this year. We fixed 2 this year, so.
I think what Blake said and what I'm saying, and I'm sure Mike will chime in here, is we'll give you the 50. Just show us a plan.
Okay.
Show us when it's gonna be, and then when you guys have these meetings, you have great people that are dedicated.
Yep.
Let's make them formal so they meet all the requirements because it's taxpayer funds. We have to be transparent with what's going on. And I'm confused with what's going on.
Okay.
So if you guys can clean that up. I don't know.
Publish
We've
the
already
notice, you're gonna have a
Okay.
meeting, at the beginning of January, say, we're having 6 meetings and they're this date, this
Okay,
time,
we
this
can do that.
place. And then have minutes that are available and recorded.
We have all the minutes and
We
all
have
that
minutes.
currently now.
That kind of thing.
And then make sure that they have public notice.
Okay.
Put in the newspaper.
And then if you can give us a plan to say, just like you just said, here's where we're gonna start. Here's how we're gonna, like Blake said, here's how we're gonna rank the areas that we're gonna start with. Show me that plan, show us that plan, and we'll give you the funds.
Okay.
Until we have that, I'm not comfortable just cutting you a blank check.
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
You guys agree, disagree?
I agree. We have to see a start and a finish to this and some sort of like, what are the expected results? So, absolutely. I mean, any project that we work on, there are gonna be phases.
Exactly.
Where that's at, where you starting, where's the worst part,
The
kind of,
big-
what, why, when, where,
Like I said, the biggest time restriction is the time ways is like right now it's so saturated. Well, he's not gonna be able to get in and start setting stuff with a
Temperature and
basis
ground
and.
But it gives you time. I mean,
Exactly.
you could show up with a plan next meeting.
Yep,
Just as long as you have something structured.
sounds great.
So you got the, we need a motion for I mean, it's already been allocated, so, right? Okay, so you got the 50.
We just need to see the
We get the
plan.
plan
Get the
set up
plan,
and
bring it back.
I can communicate with Blake and the rest of you and,
And not a contract for 170.
no.
If we've only.
That was that guy's,
Yeah.
we had to show it because it was in the total,
Show us something with your vision on it.
yeah, that was his like, that's what it does do everything. We're like, whoa, that's out, that was fixing little tiny things and.
Okay.
We do appreciate what you're doing,
Yeah,
because not
thank you.
everybody has the time or wants to put the effort into that. And I would contest that, you start walking through, I'm a history buff, you start going through this area's cemeteries, and we have Civil War, they're all stacked up. Those aren't people we should forget. Those should.
And a lot of these are the military ones that we were concentrating on. We're all the veterans and stuff, so.
So I don't think there's a cemetery that's off limits. It's the budget that dictates
Exactly.
how much we can do.
There's 2 new stones coming in honor of couple colonels veterans, I forget, it's called, veterans
It's not out, it's out of our hands.
And,
Somebody else is putting some new stones in for some
They-
kernels that they realized were in one of our cemeteries.
Veterans
so.
of Foreign Wars.
Yeah.
They were free through the veterans, and they haven't been set yet because of the weather. But theirs are going to be very kind and very nice, and I think that's going to be a really outstanding thing for them. So
Alrighty.
shall we come back in 2 weeks with a plan?
Yep.
We can get our plan ready, yep.
I say, get your plan ready, give it to Lisa, and she'll email it to us, and
Okay, sounds great.
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, Jim.
Wait a minute, you've got to hold my chair. I sat too long. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I sat too long.
Okay.
Had 2 injuries last week. Yeah, could you do this? Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Thank you so much.
I'll get you over to your chair.
Oh, okay, I can do that.
Okay.
It's just hip injury and.
All right, so now who? Jim, you're up, sir.
Good evening. I'll be brief. This kind of snuck up on us a little bit, but if you're aware, in 2026, the United States will be celebrating their 250th. The technical term for is semi-quincentennial, but it's easier to just say 250 years. And there is a group, both nationwide and statewide, the Indiana one's called Indiana 250. But we're asking next week, on April the 18th and the 19th, if the courthouse could have 2 lights lit in one of the upper stories on the north side to commemorate the 250th anniversary of them hanging the lights in the Old North Church to alert Paul Revere for his ride. We're not asking for any money or anything for that.
Just see if Bobby's got an extra light she can,
And I'm aware
find
that's
home.
a Friday and a
I'm sure she
Saturday.
can.
If it had to stay lit Sunday night, I'm sure it doesn't. The newspaper will be publicizing that. They're encouraging people to do that in their homes and businesses.
That's a cool idea.
And then the kickoff for the state one will be Flag Day, June the 14th. That'll be the 248th anniversary of the American Stars and Stripes being adopted. And we are working on something probably with our military display at the museum to have an event for that. We'll have more publicity then. Okay. Something else to think about. In 12 years, you need to think about Wells County's bicentennial.
all right.
Do we need a motion for that, or we good?
We'll just notify Bobby to.
Lynn Ellis already talked to Bobby, I believe.
Good.
Bobby's
Okay.
aware.
Yeah.
Nice.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
What other business do we have, Lisa?
We have a plaza request from John Finley. He would like to be on the plaza from May 4th through May 10th, with a 4x8 folding table and a cooler and a bullhorn
For a week?
for a week.
Give them 3 days.
3 days.
So
8,
4th,
9, and
5th,
10, or else the 4th, 5th, and 6th.
When is it?
Week of, right before Mother's Day. Mother's Day is the 11th, so.
I have inquired with our current financial system what the cost would be to to have remote claims go paperless with our claims.
You went and test drove that.
I did. And, you know, the departments would upload their claims and their attachments, so it would be just pretty paperless. We went to Whitley County last week, and it was just pretty fabulous. An annual cost for that is $4,000. Cheap.
Better retention, less time spent. Probably
Yes.
it's pretty quick
People
payback.
traveling back and forth from their offices, good, just do it.
Would you like to pay for that out of your commission budget, or do you want me to pay for it out of my budget?
Of course, we want it out of your budget.
I was
Right,
gonna
we
say.
got a choice. Being honest.
If you have funds available, but.
That was a loaded question.
Well, I also did, I also got a quote for
I'm okay
timekeeping.
with that too.
Am I talking about
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
6, 7, 8.
Yeah, I think that, 6, 7, 8.
6, 7, 8?
Yeah.
So she's also got one that we want to talk about with the timekeeping.
It would be for all departments and all employees, time clocks. They can, log in on their computers. To implement, it's $49,000, and the annual cost is $15,060.
It's typical what you see in a business now, so it's set up that you either have to do it from your work computers as stationary, so you have to show up to do it, or you have to be in a area that you could use your cellular device or your mobile phone if you wanted, but you have to be within a certain distance of the clock to clock in, so it would make sure that people are at their places when they need to be. And then it also automates the payroll side, so the time that Maria and that group would do with entering in and keeping track of times, W-2s, it interfaces with, what's our payroll system that, Lao, it interfaces with that system, so I think that, I don't know if we've got to vote on it today or approve it today, but the thing I'd ask you to go do is look at how much time we could consolidate in that function of collecting time, manually entering it, data entry issues, accountability to be on the job on time in the position you're supposed to be in. And then maybe even head.
Is this a division of Lao or some new vendor?
It's a
Add-on.
new, yeah, it's a new vendor, it's an add-on. They work throughout the state as well. It's attendance on demand.
Attendance?
It tracks PTO, it does all the requests for time off, it shows the approvals for time off.
I've always thought about that, but I didn't know if that is an IT item or if that was an internal, what division, you know, or
Yeah,
the
my
commissioners pay for it and you guys use it and implement it, or just watch?
My office does not track, department heads track time for their employees now.
Right.
We don't. This system would track everything, PTO, comp, everything.
Comp time, to make sure that, adjust the hours. Here's the hours I worked.
49 and how much every year?
15.
I'm an advocate of it. I mean, on the personal business side, I use it in every business I have, and it reduces
Yeah,
the time.
I do too. I'm just thinking the numbers, whether there's a different vendor that would
We
be.
do have $100,000 in the tribal consistency fund that we got during COVID that we can spend on anything.
It would cover the implementation plus several years of, what I ask is a ROI from the vendor on what have they seen in other counties for the return, so claiming hours, actual hours. Because I'm not saying everybody doesn't do it right, but I'm sure there's a gap somewhere on hours worked versus hours that are collected. Discrepancies.
Phased a few minutes and that kind of stuff.
PTO, comp time, approvals, things like that, so, something to consider. And it's been presented to the council also, right?
A couple of people have seen it, yes.
Do we need to get competitive quotes for a service like that for $49,000 for our original purchase?
And I think what we're asking for is there an interest? And then we'll go through and give additional, same thing, go through the process.
I just wanted my comments to be consistent throughout the meeting.
Anybody have any more miscellaneous? Anything from the group? No, everybody wants to get out? Holly? Like to get out.
I say, that's the longest you've been in that chair at a commissioner meeting for ages.
Commissioners?
No, sir.
That's all.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.